I've been in this business for a long time. So ambition in women was often misinterpreted.
Curious though, because now you have like two decades experience of what you're doing. Now when you look back at your early career, do you think you would have done something differently?
As data science has progressed, as digital agriculture has progressed, it just provides more entry points for female scientists into the field as well. I think there can be even more improvement, but for sure we've come a long way.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
Nice.
So I think it's important to note that if you want to see the change, be the change. To improve yourself, and if you can't find those opportunities, go out and create those opportunities. A career isn't a straightforward path. I think mine is exemplary in that. I was on a straight path until I left one country and I came to another country. It might not be a pathway that I would have chosen 20 years ago. It might not have been a pathway that I would have chosen 10 years ago. But I was a different person then.
Yep.
Can we change it? Should we change it?
Hey guys, welcome back to Empower Her. Today you have me, Karen. And for those who don't know what Empower Her is, it is a podcast that consists of two words, namely women and empowerment. In this podcast, we're introducing you professors of U of S. We're also introducing you industrial professionals in Saskatoon. And today we have yet another, and her name is Rouvay. She used to be a sessional lecturer for biology, and she used to be one of my lecturers, actually. And now she's working as a research program manager. And before I say any further, I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Rouvay, and I am currently working in the Department of Plant Sciences and in the Crop Development Center as a research program manager. As Karen said, I also do some other things that excite me, like sessional lecturing for biology. And I am not originally from Saskatoon. I have a background in science and in research, and I came from South Africa about 4 years ago. And I am very excited and glad and thankful for the opportunity to now call Saskatoon and Canada my home.
Oh my God, congratulations. I really love that for you. You kind of gave me a British accent, so I was going to ask you if you were from the UK.
It's interesting because I always get the accent thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had an accent, but apparently I do.
And it's a good one.
And a strong one.
Yeah.
I think that some students that I would teach, they would tell you, oh, her accent is too strong, I can't understand her. But yes, so it's two camps. Some say British, or are you from Britain, or somewhere there. Yeah. And the other one is Australian,
I can see that,
which also comes up quite often. So.
Yes. Well, actually, going into our conversation, I know you've done a lot of work in genetics.
Yes.
When you were young, what sparked your interest in genetics and agriculture?
I never had a clear path mapped out in terms of what I wanted to do. But when I was in high school, which is when we first started to do genetics in biology, I thought, this is so interesting, and it just clicked for me. Some people love accounting because they understand it and it clicks for them.
Yeah.
I think I'm good with numbers, but I hate accounting. It's not something that I would ever see myself in a career in. Yeah. But genetics just clicked for me, and it was that little bit of a spark of curiosity. So where can this lead me? If you think about genetics, it explains so much of the similarities we see, but it also explains so much of the differences we see in organisms. And what I loved about it was the fact that it could be applied across species. I mean, you could do it in plants, you could do it in animals, both of which spheres I dabbled in as a scientist. You could even look at microorganisms and humans. And then when I started my studies in it after school and I progressed in it, I found even more avenues. You can have molecular genetics, and you can have population genetics, and you can have more quantitative genetics, which is the breeding aspects. So it just opened up so many avenues, and focusing on the agriculture part of it sort of gave that initial curiosity. It gave it some purpose, because now I could focus my research, or the research that our group was doing, into sustainability and into food security and into livelihood. So I just felt very purpose-driven by focusing that into agriculture in the end.
Do you feel like the research that you do is very closely related to plant science, or do you think they're completely different things?
The research so I come from a research background. At the moment, I'm not in research specifically, so I'm not the scientist out there in the field doing the research. I'm more on the management side, but yes, it is related to plant science, because the focus is very much on the plant and those aspects of it. But it is more holistic. You have to think about the environment where this is growing, and farmers and policy and those types of things. So, and long-term impact. So it is primarily in plant science, but it has a broader view as well.
Right. And since you're like uptaking a leadership role here in the management side of things, when you were growing up, did you also see other women in these management roles? And did that really shape how you envisioned yourself in the future?
You know, I've been in this business for a long time. So, no. When I was growing up, there was not a lot of women. There were women in research, but not necessarily in leadership roles, and not in decision-making roles. Right. So I think when I was just immersing myself into my research career, it probably shaped a little bit of my expectations. Perhaps it even limited them. You know, women aren't in leadership roles, and they don't need to be, you know, in the beginning. So I think what made a difference was to start getting mentors that could, you know, help you to understand your role in that environment, and to help you understand that you can take on that leadership role, even though it's not the norm at that stage, but that eventually you could get into that role. So I didn't have any aspirations to become a leader. I think it more developed through the responsibilities that you have as you move along in your career.
Did you have like a mindset shift, like to step out of those norms, right? Because I assume when you were younger, it wasn't the norm of women being in management roles. So when you were growing up, did you have to shift the way you thought, or did you have a mindset shift at a certain period of your life where you were like, okay, I'm going to abide by this value of mine, and I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and break the norm that's out there in the world?
I think definitely it's, and once again, I wouldn't say it was a definite mind shift change, but it just sort of evolved into that. It was, once you get into your career and you start consistently producing results, so people start to trust you, they start to trust the decisions that you make, they start to see that you have a voice, and they start listening to you. So I didn't make a mind shift and decide on this day, from now people will listen to me because I have a voice. Right. But it is important to realize that you don't need to shy away from that responsibility. You can stand up and say, let's do it like this and this. And if you speak with authority and people know you and trust you, they will listen to that voice.
Right.
So it is important to build those relationships. I think that is essential in any career, to have good relationships and a good network so that people can trust you and that they can trust your voice in leading them going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also think credibility is a good one, right? Like, I think credibility builds that confidence. So the more you're knowledgeable about what you're currently doing with experience, I think it builds that. Speaking of that, when you first started into like the field of research, whether that be genetics, crop security, or agriculture, did you face early challenges in your early career as a woman?
I think coming in as a young scientist, as a young female, you know, those barriers are there. They might not be as
prevalent.
Exactly, right? Not as overt, but you know, you feel those subtle hints at, you know, your decisions might be questioned. You might need to feel a little bit more prepared going into a room because people might question your decisions. And especially as a female scientist, you know, when I'm now talking about the early 2000s, right? It's when my career started. I don't think it has changed, but at that stage, ambition in women was often misinterpreted, right? So if you are in a meeting and you are direct, they might say, oh, but she's a little bit too abrasive for us, you know. Or if you want to take on these opportunities to lead, they might say, you're being too pushy. You shouldn't have a leadership role. So those misinterpretations made it difficult in the beginning, but like you also said, you know, building that credibility over time helped to overcome some of those initial barriers.
I'm curious though, because now you have like two decades experience of what you're doing. Now, when you look back at your early career, do you think you would have done something differently? Maybe not. You can say nothing.
You know, I think that I would have trusted myself a little bit more. When you come into that career and you feel a little bit uncertain, you're still building, you're working hard and you're building that career. But it takes time, and it takes time to build those trust relationships also with yourself, to know, you know, I do have a voice and I know what I'm talking about, so people can listen. But also, and it's hindsight is always 20, you know, what do they say, 2020. When I was young, I was much more fiery as well. It was, you know, let's do this. And if people weren't yet as keen to follow me or go on that path because they didn't really know me necessarily, I would be very hot-headed about it. And it's like, I can't work with these people. They don't understand me. But now I understand that fire and that passion is important, but you need to contain it as well. You know, you need to understand where to utilize that. And I think I might have damaged some relationships just because I was too passionate at that stage. So I might have managed that a bit differently. But overall, I think I wouldn't have changed much.
Yes. I feel like agriculture science is also a STEM field. When we talk about agriculture science, do you think women face unique challenges in agriculture science when you compare it to other STEM fields?
No, I do think there are some challenges or different expectations, perhaps from other STEM fields. If you think about agriculture science, and research. It includes lab work, but it can also include field work. Not for the majority it does, except if you're only in one area. And it also includes industry engagement. So especially if you look at the field work aspect, that can be quite physically demanding, and it can be logistically complex. And those aspects of agricultural research have not historically been designed with women in mind. So if you now also add, perhaps there's a rural context, farms that are far out, it does become, I wouldn't say necessarily difficult, but the expectations are different than from in other STEM fields, for example.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Also, when we're looking at, let's say, women in the current generation and maybe your generation, do you feel like women in the current generation will face unique challenges from your generation and vice versa? How do you think those are going to be different?
Things are definitely shifting, right? So in my generation, starting out, things like digital agriculture was not a thing. So you still needed to be in the field, to walk those fields to multiple times, to get the data repeatedly. So that manual repetition, right? And field presence was important. Now, with digital agriculture, that is shifting so much. And it basically removes, you're not removing the field. That is still there, but you are removing some of the barriers.
Like repetitive tasks.
Exactly. Now, female scientists, other scientists as well, but female specifically, can get into that field, but without physically needing to be in the field. Interpreting data that we get from remote sensing or from using crop modeling and data science to predict how a crop will grow. So they can still be in the field, but it's not that necessity to be there the whole time. So now we've moved from the physical presence and strength aspects to be there, moving into more analytics, interpretation, those types. So it doesn't mean female scientists can't be in the field, but I think as data science has progressed, as digital agriculture has progressed, it just provides more entry points for female scientists into the field as well.
I'm very curious to ask, because you said everybody's working towards a scientific research question. I wonder, as a manager, when you oversee people, do you feel that women approach research questions differently from men, or do you see no difference at all?
I want to say yes, there are differences. Obviously, being a female, I can speak from my perspective of how I approach it. And I do think it is a bit different from how, if I were to look at my colleagues, I wouldn't say it's a broad statement, but I found that applicable in my situation. In that I think women have a more of a systems view or an overall view of the research question. So they would consider many more aspects and combining those. So I'm working on this crop or this species. So what is the genetics of this? But also, what do I need to consider for the environment where this species or this crop is? In agriculture science, what is the impact of this on the farm or the farmer? Are there policies that we need to think about? So it's more of this systems approach and overall approach that I think women can bring to the research question, or female scientists can bring to the research question. Yes, in my opinion.
Right. I like the way you framed it, because as a person, as a female, I've only known like my perspective. I've never really worked with another colleague who's a male in terms of research aspect. So I've always wondered that, do actually women think of things differently? But I'm glad that you see that little difference, and maybe that might not be a difference in every lab, right?
I think so. I think so.
It just might be in certain areas and certain labs. It could be. In your 2 decades of experience that you've had, how do you think the representation of women have evolved or changed? And maybe that could be in a negative way, maybe that's in a positive way, maybe there's no difference. But what do you think?
No, I think there has been definite changes, and I would say positive changes. So there's many more female scientists coming into research. So that is definitely a positive. I think that there are many more role models that we can see, female scientists, and also more support policies to support female scientists. So there's definitely positive changes, and things are changing in that direction. But there can be more improvements, right, for sure. I think that especially in senior leadership, yes, changes are, there are changes. There are more female senior leaders, but there can be even more changes, especially if you look at the large funding decisions and large research management areas. I think there can be even more improvement. But for sure, we've come a long way. Yeah. We've come a long way.
Nice. How do you think we as women could, what do you think we could do as women to make those improvements happen on a more individual scale rather than a more holistic organizational level?
I think being vocal, but in a positive way, because you can get, I want to say using your voice, not raising your voice, but using your voice, to be those leaders and to ask for change, not just to sit back and to wait for somebody else to make those decisions. When you're in a public forum, it can be on a small scale or in a larger scale meeting, and females are looked over, raise your voice and say, but, what about this and this? Have we thought about this? To show that to increase the visibility. So I think it's important to note that if you want to see the change, be the change.
Oh, I like how you said that, yeah.
It starts with you. I can't expect your upcoming generation, put it on you and say, it's for you to change. I've had my research career. I still have a voice and I can still use it. So I think that is important.
When you look at yourself maybe 20 years from now and today, what do you think empowerment means to you today at this stage of your career?
For me, empowerment is finding those opportunities to better yourself, to, what is the word I'm looking for? To improve yourself. And if you can't find those opportunities, go out and create those opportunities.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
But not just for yourself, for others as well. And that is where mentorship comes in. I had mentors when I grew up when I grew up in science, right? My research career. I had mentors, but I think it might have been one or two, in my early career. But then as I advanced, I became a mentor to other scientists, other female scientists, scientists in general, but many of them were female as well. So be that voice for somebody else as well, help them to find their voice, to find their place, to know that it's okay for them to stand up for themselves, but they must stand up for others as well. So it's this perpetual cycle. You must create these opportunities for yourself, but also help others to see that they have the potential and the responsibility to do it for themselves, right? Don't just wait for somebody else to create those opportunities.
I really like the way you phrased that. Yeah, it was so nice. It sounded very deep. So like, it's really nice. If you could change maybe one thing in agricultural innovation, and doesn't necessarily have to be for women, maybe just any one thing that you think will improve and create a more positive environment for anybody, what do you think you would introduce that one change? And when I say change, it could be things you want to add, things you want to remove, or maybe you don't want to remove or change anything and you're happy the way it is. But what do you think what change would you introduce to the research field of agriculture?
I think if I rephrase it, not necessarily into agricultural science, but I think it's more applicable to science in general. And I don't want to say only academic environments, although that is what I am used to and comfortable with, and that is where I grew up in, once again, in science, or in my scientific career. And that is that if we look at career development, many times a career isn't a straightforward path. I think mine is exemplary in that. You know, I was on a straight path until I left one country and I came to another country, and then my pathway diverged. It didn't change. It wasn't a radical change. It was more of a split in the road, and I had to choose between one of two paths, and I chose the one, which many people questioned.
But you're happy with it.
I am. And I think, once again, that is what's so important. You know, do what excites you. Do not do what people expect you to do. Do what excites you. Do something that you feel passionate about, something that you feel you can add value to at that stage in your life. It might not be a pathway that I would have chosen 20 years ago. It might not have been a pathway that I would have chosen 10 years ago. But I was a different person then. And now you are at this road where you have more knowledge, and you've got background knowledge. You know what you like about science. You know what you like about the path that you followed. And it's like, okay, let's now redefine ourselves a little bit. Let's leave that and let's focus on this. So what happens in the research career, or the career of many people, they don't always follow this straight and narrow. You know, there might be some divergence and there might be some side path that you follow. So the progression isn't always linear. And I think what often happens is that traditional career models, they reward a more linear pathway. So they would say, oh, you've been in this position for 10 years, we're going to promote you. So they don't necessarily reward
flexibility.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And especially getting back to female scientists, it's not restricted to them, but many times, you know, females would move out of the research career for reasons of starting a family or changing things up. And I think that traditional career progression models would then penalize them in terms of that. And it shouldn't be like that. It should. So I would change a system where career success is seen as you followed one pathway for your life. You started at this level, you progressed through the level, and you ended there. You've reached the pinnacle, so you've been a success. And that is not true. You can have a different pathway that still leads to success. And in the end, you know, it doesn't really matter if other people see you as successful. If you do what you find works for you, and you find that that is how I measure my success in my life, by finding fulfillment in what I'm doing at the moment, then you have won.
I really like the way you put it, but I also know sometimes, when people are in their early stages of their career, it's very hard for them to define the measurement of success because they see it from the eyes of someone else, So I think that really comes with time. But
exactly.
I think the earlier someone realizes that, the better it is for themselves because then they put what they want ahead instead of what someone else perceive of them.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
And once again, it is about changing the perception then, right? So if you are in this position and you see, well, this is the only way I can get promoted, right, is by following this, or, success being defined is if I follow this. If you see that that is the way and you don't agree with it, then have these discussions. And once again, yes, you might be young, and you might be regarded, and you might be afraid that your voice might not be heard, but become vocal over this, but not in a pushy way, not like this needs to change. Ask the questions. Why do we do it like this? Right. Is it because historically we've been doing this the whole time, or is there other reason? Go into those conversations. If there is a specific reason for, then we can work with that and say, oh, okay, I understand that. If it is purely historical, why are we still doing it like this? Can we change it? Should we change it? An example of that related to my sessional lecturing, for example, is in teaching. If you look back at when I started my career 20 years ago, we were teaching a specific generation of student. Right. Now, 30 years later, you're teaching a totally different generation of student. You cannot be teaching in the same way anymore. The content obviously has evolved, but the student is a different being. So are we still teaching like that because historically that worked? Okay, great, but it's not going to work now.
It's not applicable anymore.
Exactly. So you need to keep up with that and understand why is something being done in a certain way. Right. If it can be changed, perhaps we should change it. And now I'm talking about the career paths as well. Think about the next generation of scientists. Many of them they probably won't stick to one company for 20 years. They might go to another company. So are we not going to regard them as successful because they are going to different companies and seeking different opportunities? Right. So those are the questions, that one needs to have. And like I say, important, use your voice. Don't feel you don't have a voice, even as a young scientist. And ask those questions.
Right. I really like the way you put all those things. It was really wise. It kind of reminds me of my mom because she kind of says all those kind of things. I'm like, it feels like my mom's sitting in front of me and she's telling me all those things.
Well, I am glad that I can have that sort of impact. My children are still young and they do not yet see me as wise. Perhaps in a few years' time.
Do your kids also plan to go into the same research field, or is it just...
I think it's still too early for them. They are 12 and 10. So
it's quite early. Yeah.
My oldest son at the moment, he's thinking of engineering, but
that's awesome.
Yes, maybe he'll change his mind. Yeah. And the youngest is very much into YouTube and those types of things. So who knows? True. Yes, it's still early days, but I won't discourage them. Right. If they are keen in biology or in plant science or in one of those fields, I will encourage it. But it's also important for us as parents, right, not to impose our views. Right. I want to guide him on a pathway. And once again, both of them must find something that they are passionate about, that excites you. You want to go to your work and be excited, not feel like, I have to get up and go and do this, right? Yeah. So you must find that something that you're excited about and that makes you want to get up and go to work.
Right. Is there something that excites you about future generation or the future workforce that will actually go into this research industry? Something that you feel excited about?
Well, for sure. I mean, if you look at the next generation, reflecting or looking at them versus my generation that started in science, they are much more confident, right? They are extremely fluent digitally. I mean, which is important, right? I mean, if you look at how the world is changing around us, so that is definitely a positive. They are much more comfortable with change and not necessarily agreeing with outdated norms. So, there is that vocality about why is it like this and should it be like this and can we change it? And technically strong. I mean, so all of these things, I think, just hold so much opportunities for the next generation. In research, I mean, because all of these aspects can be utilized in various fields of research, but specifically in agricultural research as well, right? We spoke about digital agriculture and the revolutions that there are. So that offers these opportunities for scientists, female scientists, to get into these fields and redefine leadership there.
Right. If you wanted to give advice to any of the women who are watching this and who might be interested to go into researching in that field of genetics and crop security and agriculture, what do you think you would tell them?
It's one of these things you reflect on these things after a research career and you think, what would I have told my younger self and the next generation? And I think some of this got highlighted in the podcast up until now. And that is that your research, you don't have to have everything figured out. When you start, don't think that is the end goal. You need to know that, but how you're going to get there, it might be open.
Vary. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you don't need all the answers. That path in your career might not always be a straight path. So, and don't worry about that. But important, do something that excites you, that makes you want to get up in the morning. Stay curious. That is, ask the questions. Go and find the answers. But do it with courageousness. It's not always easy to stand up and to take that next step, to take a different pathway, but do it in any case. I find that most of my professional development and personal development came from challenging myself and taking that next step, but courageously, moving out of your comfort zone. And I think most importantly is just be authentically you. Right. Don't aim for perfection. Be you. Nobody else can do you like you. You bring a specific perspective. You bring your personality and your knowledge skills. So just don't try to be anybody else. Just be authentically you. And then you should be happy and successful, more importantly.
That. Well, I really hope that I become like you someday, because I really like the way you said everything and the way you put yourself out there. I really like that, the way you phrased all of the stuff that you said.
Oh, no, thank you so much. Yeah. And I'm honored that you would have said that. I think that when I look at you and these projects that you're taking on, I think it's such a great initiative, right? I think it is empowering, it's powerful, it's you are creating one of those voices for scientists out there, right? Saying these are the different aspects. These are the different things that you can think about. Don't just fix your mind on a certain pathway. Think about different things. So you, in essence, are being curious, right? What is out there?
Right.
So, I mean, kudos to you as well. I think you are doing a great job. And to a very large extent, I also look up to you. I think this is I mean, you don't always have to look up to an older person or to an older generation, right? You can look at a younger generation and see what incredible work they are doing as well. So well done.
That's so sweet. One of the intentions of my podcast is I'm hoping that if anybody can take one thing out of any one of these podcasts, I think I'll be like, that will be my goal. You know, as long as somebody can take something positive and then actually apply it into their lives for a positive and meaningful change, I think I'll succeed in my goal. As long as somebody could do that.
For sure. Yeah. I think that goal will be
fingers
will
crossed.
be met.
Okay, with that being said, I got you 2 gift cards, and you're going to pretend like you didn't know about
them. Wow, thank you so much.
Those are from Westgate Books. I don't know if you've been there before.
Oh, I love books. I love reading.
Yes, so they're kind of on Louise Avenue, which is like behind Save-On Foods on the 8th Street. And then they do secondhand books, and they do a lot of genres. They can do romance, thriller, comedy, horror, and you name it. Okay. And they have a very cute cat, so if you're into cats.
Oh, I love cats. Yes. I've got 2 great cats.
You look like a cat person.
What does a cat person look like? A cat
person is basically somebody who has an outgoing personality.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's something I've noticed. And then if you have a puppy, I've noticed people have a bubbly personality.
Oh, really? Really?
Observations.
My family in general, they love pets. But yes, we've got 2 cats.
And this is from Hedgehog Bakery. They do amazing bakery. They have, of course, like little small cakes. They have rolls, cinnamon rolls, cardamom rolls.
Awesome.
Lots of nice coffee. And they also support
coffee.
Yes. They support small businesses too. So like if you go into their shop, they support like small wooden handcraft businesses.
Oh, that
so you'll
sounds
find really nice handcrafted wooden stuff.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
With that being said, if you had to say anything to the audience, any last words of the video, what would you want to say to the audience? Putting you in a tough spot again.
What can I say that hasn't been said before? I think I might just want to reiterate some of the ideas that I threw out before, and that is 3 main things, right? And that is curiosity over, what is that word? Certainty. So ask the questions. Follow that pathway that looks a little bit different, but that excites you, and that you're not so sure of what the outcome will be. So curiosity over certainty. And then the idea of courage over comfort. Ask the questions, the difficult questions. Step out of your comfort zone, because that is where the growth is going to take place. And then authenticity over perfection. Don't aim to be perfect. Nobody can be perfect. We can always try and improve ourselves, and that I would encourage. But be authentic, because that is where your strength lies, and only your strength. You can be you. So don't try and be like Karen, or don't try and be like the person next door. And that is where you will shine. So those are the 3, I think, main take-home messages.
I want to say thank you so much, Rouvay, for being a part of this podcast. You won't believe, I feel like me entering this podcast and me leaving this podcast are a little bit of a different person. Like, I think I've learned a lot from you in a positive way, nothing negative. But I feel like a lot of the things you said helped me to reinforce and made me think how I envisioned life, because I feel like as a young person, you want everything kind of set in stone. You have you want to have plan A, plan B, and plan C. And just looking at you and your career trajectory, I think I've learned so much, and I'm very grateful for you of being here and saying yes to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you
course.
for asking it.
With that being said, guys, I'm going to say if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can leave it in the comment section below, and Rouvay and I will help to co-reply. And with that being said, we're going to say bye!
Bye-bye! Bye-bye!